Alright, are we back? Shadow, you're live on Twitch. Just saying. Have we returned? Am I live? Everyone can see me? Shadow? Moxman? Yoshi? You're all alone! You are. Everyone's over here. Get over here, you butthole. Alright. You see me, cool. Alright, so here's what the tests were. The first test was 720p 60 2500 at very fast. Second one was 480 60 2500 faster, and it was smoother than the first one. 612p 60 3500 bitrate faster preset, smoother, as in these two were comparable in a direct manner. And then this one right here, it was our 900p 60 2500 super fast preset, smooth but lower quality. And then we went to this one, which was 540p 60 3500 bitrate and faster preset, smooth, best visuals. That was the order that the tests went in. That was the conclusions that I got back from you guys. Z, if you're able to watch right now. I demand my own box. I shall not join you people to my right. The silly factor is real. Alright, so let me explain what all of this jumbled information is to those who are unaware as to the actual context. Alright. A stream works in three key things. There are three key elements to live streaming. Now, the program you're seeing right now is called OBS. All right, we have another program over here called XSplit, but we'll start with OBS. We'll work with this one first and kind of explain what everything is. So, in the three things for casting, the things that you need to think about, there is resolution, frame rate, and bit rate. These are the three core things in regards to what creates visual quality. There's more in the background, such as custom X264 scripting. There's encoder presets, etc., etc. There's a lot of other things that can go into it to make things better, but the core things are resolution, frame rate, and bit rate. All right. Now, many people take the idea that resolution equals better, which is a half true. As you can see in our first test, we did 720p, right? But then in the second test, we did 480, which is nearly half what 720p is. And it was a smoother experience, and the visuals were still good. And then we have right here 900p, which is definitely double what 480p is. Definitely double that. Same frame rate, same bit rate. The preset's different, but we can disregard this. And it was smooth, but the quality was lower. So it seems that resolution does not directly mean higher quality. It helps, but it is not indefinitely the factor that creates the higher visual fidelity. Alright? So the frame rate is the same on all of these, so we can kind of exclude frame rate. But the bit rate changes. We have 2500, 2500, 3500, 2500, and 2500 or 3500. Now, these two right here, the only change between test 1 and test 2. Wait, no, we got to pick a different one. No, because then we have this right here. Well, that still doesn't really change enough. So, again, let's discredit the preset stuff for right now. We'll talk about that when we get further into it. Test 1 and Test 2, the only difference between these two is the resolution. So at first glance, you would look at this and go, why does 480p at the exact same numbers that 720p have equal a better visual experience? As in, it was smoother and it was crisper. Well, one reason is that it doesn't take as much CPU. So it's a little easier on the system to encode that the visuals and send them to you at a better frame rate, right? That's one way. But another way is that 480p 60 FPS at 2500 bitrate is a very fine-tuned and optimized number set. In fact, it's above an optimized number set. Aurum, whom I'm feeding a lot of this information about from, so again, I'm not the one that did the research. I'm not the one that found out this information. I'm merely relaying it after having found it out from Aurum, and doing personal tests on my own time, and also concluding things from everyone else's help. And again, thank you for your help and input in regards to this to conclude to what we have right now. The information that I got from Aurum was essentially an algorithm, and the algorithm works as follows: pixel height times pixel width times frame rate times not the multiplication, divided by 10,000. Okay, that algorithm equals out to the optimized bit rate to create a bits per pixel environment of 0.1, which is very condensed. But going above that required bit rate, or suggested bit rate, means that it will create a much higher visual fidelity. It doesn't improve as quickly as it would from below to that number, but you can go above that number and definitely see better. So we had 854 times 480 times 60 divided by 10,000, which comes out to 2459. So that means this number right here is an optimized sort of number, right? It's very optimal, it's got a very tight pixel density, and that pixel density is what creates the real quality, not the resolution or the frame rate, or even the bit rate on its own. All three of them on their own do not equate to quality, but together, when put on the right kind of number set, does in fact create that optimized number and very, very tightly packed visual fidelity. Oh my. Now, if we were to do 720p 60, just to look at exactly how far off we were with this number right here. 720 times 1280 times 60 divided by 10,000. So in order to achieve the same pixel density that we have on this one, 480p 60 at 2500, we would have needed to more than double the bitrate that we were using here at 5529. Essentially 5530 would have been the same pixel density that we have here. All right? Now, by Twitch's standards, you can only use a maximum of 3500 bit rate, right? So at 3500, essentially what this means is 720p 60 FPS is not a viable option. It's not going to work out in a way that other options would. For example, 480p 60, right? Which all of you agreed, still good visuals, and it was smoother. So then we'll take a look at other options, such as this one and this one, all right? Now, 612p 60 at 3500 is about the same pixel density as this one, right? But this one's lower resolution and the same bitrate. In order to achieve that pixel density that we had before with these two, we would have needed only 3110 bitrate. But we have 390 more than that. And it was smooth. And the visuals were just a little bit better than the previous ones. Not a marginal sort of big, massive improvement, but they were good. Good enough to say that they were better than the 720p. Now, all of these numbers go into places in regards to things like this. Like we have, obviously, resolution, and then we have bitrate, and frame rate. All right? So those are those three things in OBS. But then there was this other option that we hadn't talked about yet. We were said to exclude it for a moment, and that's the preset. The preset is the encoding, the amount of power that the encoder is going to utilize to condense this information and send it to Twitch. The higher the preset, I just wanted to say I find this extremely informative. Thanks, Spike. You're welcome. The higher that preset, the better quality that it'll produce. That goes to say that it's not as simple as just say, oh, well then we'll just do this, right? No. An encoding preset, these presets here, there's a lot more options on OBS than there is on XSplit, but it's still valid to kind of show you them. You look at this and it looks a little confusing at first. But the way you want to think about it is, how long is the encoder going to work on compressing that information? All right. So here we have ultra fast. This is theoretically the fastest one that you have, which means that the encoder will take almost no time at all to condense that information and send it out. That means that errors can occur inside of that information. It can create bigger elements of pixelation, visual degradation, and the like. All right. That also means, on the opposite spectrum, that this one right here, the lowest or the slowest possible option that you have, means that it'll take a really, really long time. It'll really work on all of that information, compress it, and save everything at its core possible element, and then send it to Twitch. How do you know so much? I spent 2.5 years casting. So it'll take a really long time to keep that information. It'll work out every little element, and it'll condense it as much as possible, and then send it out. So you'll get a very, very, very rich pixel density out of that. The problem is, there's a substantial difference between the amount of CPU usage between each and every one of these, which is why we used different ones for different resolutions. As you can see, the 900p one, we used super fast, all right, which is here. I really like this and I really want to stay, but I'm tired. Alright, take care, Yoshi. It'll be on the internet. I'll end up putting this on YouTube. I'm going to take all the videos, I'm going to compress them and send them, make a big video out of it, and I'm going to put it on YouTube. So if you want to find out more information about this, it's going to be put somewhere where you can go watch it if you ever need to. Alright? So the encoding preset that we used for 900p was super fast. Alright? And this goes in tandem with the lower quality visuals, but in this case, the lower quality visuals is less about the preset and more about the bitrate. Remember when we said we needed more than double for 720p? Well, in the case of the magic that is 900p, which again, 720p 60 is undoable, right? So 1600 times 900 times 60 divided by 10,000, that's 100,000. 10,000 equals 8,640. So in order to achieve the quality that we got here, right, we would need to triple, more than triple, the bit rate that goes right here. More than triple that, which is why we saw the lower quality visuals. We saw that pixelation and such occur. So this is not a massive element to the quality. Obviously, you can go right here and you can get a really good quality out of it on almost any of these presets. But the freed up, I like to look at it as this frees up CPU. And since it frees up CPU, I'm going to go from here to here. So the video quality will get better, and it'll use maybe about the same, but oftentimes less than casting at a higher resolution. Which almost makes it more valid to cast at a lower resolution than it does at a higher resolution. That goes to say that resolution does play an element to quality. I mean, 360p, like if we went really, really low on resolution, right? We went like 360 by 240, right? Like super low resolution. It would not look good no matter what you did to it. Just because the pixels at that point are so large that you actually can't hide them behind pixel density. And remember when I said earlier in the test that you need to watch the video in the same video size? That was a very key point in this. The pixel density changed with the settings, but at the same time the resolution changed. And if the resolution changes and the pixel density, while better, and you change the video to say full screen and you're on a 1080p monitor, what you're doing is scaling up the video to the resolution of the monitor. So even though 480p looked good at what it was, say you're watching on a monitor that's 2560 by 1440 or 2560 by 1600, a really high resolution monitor, and then you played the video in full screen. The pixels become more noticeable. Not the pixelation in motion, just the pixels in general become more noticeable because they're bigger. So it degrades the quality of the video when you watch it in that manner. So with that in mind, yes, higher resolution does make a better image, but it's not the only factor that you need to consider. So all of these things can be done in OBS through, encoding, video, and all that stuff. Audio is a completely different beast in regards to that. We're only going to talk about visual quality here. And we've covered basically everything that we need to in regards to that for OBS. Now, XSplit, right here, is basically a very similar thing in regards to that. It's just set the resolution, set the frame rate, and then set the bit rate, which you would set in here. You'd set it in this menu right here. right? And then, of course, the same thing in that you do in OBS. You have the encoder presets. And like I said before, this one actually has a pretty large list of them that you can utilize right here. We have ultra fast, and then we have slower. So there's more options in OBS in regards to that. Now, OBS is free, so a lot of people like to use the idea that, hey, it's free, therefore it is the best possible thing to use. I disagree, just because I hate OBS's interface with a passion. But both of these are very valid options for casting, and both of them, at their core, work identically. This one's free, this one you have to pay for. But identically, they do the exact same thing. So there's no like numbers that you have to consider that are different between the two of them. The same algorithm applies to both. And to remind you guys as to what that algorithm is, in case you want to play with different numbers than the ones that I showed you in this document here, the algorithm is pixel width times pixel height times frame rate divided by 10,000 equals BPP 0.1 bit rate. All right? And again, going above the number that it comes out to will increase the quality, but it'll only do so at a very minimal level. The amount of gain that you get above that number is not nearly as much as going from below that number to that number. Now, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask right now. I've basically covered everything that I wanted to cover in regards to all of this information. All the numbers are right here. Again, this goes to say that it doesn't actually look bad if you cast at any of these other options that aren't like fully optimized things, because no one actually said that the visuals were bad. They didn't look as good as others, but no one ever said that it was a bad visual experience. Also, don't ever cast at 1080p. Don't. Period. Don't. Like, it is completely and totally invalid. Not only because it's impossible on Twitch's standards, it's also invalid because you require so much beefy hardware to do it that there's no reason to do 1080p. None. Not even a little bit of a reason. 1080 by 1920 times 60 divided by 10,000. What do I stream at? Oh, my cast? My cast is 540p. It's 54p, 48 FPS at 2500 bitrate with the fast preset. But I actually have a dynamic setting that I use. I don't only cast at 540p 48. 540p 48 is my high frame rate option that I use. That's for games like Witcher 2, Skyrim, Stalker, BioShock, that kind of stuff. Then there are games that don't require a high frame rate, but I do have my frame rate a little higher than 30 because it's smoother. It's a smoother experience. But the motion isn't really something that you need to capture in a game like that. So I condense the frame rate and then bolster the resolution. Hardware reserved. I'm looking into more so I can find the issue. Okay. So my other options that I use is 612p at 38 FPS, 2500, using the faster preset. So this option right here is a higher resolution, lower frame rate, right? I use that for games like Dark Cloud 2, or maybe a turn-based strategy game, or something like that. That doesn't require a really high frame rate to justify the high motion. So these are the two settings that I use on my cast. I can do better. I know I can do better. I could cast at a much higher resolution, much higher frame rate, much higher bit rate. I could pull this off. As you guys saw, I actually was able to do it. I was casting it. The faster preset might have been a bit too much. I would probably put that on very fast to fix the CPU usage, but I could do this. The reason why you don't do that, the reason why you don't cast at that big quality number is because until you achieve partnership or you get transcoding, what you have to suffer with is that not every person that will come to your channel has the internet and bandwidth to justify the bit rate that you'll be casting at. The bit rate is essentially the file information size that you are sending. So say the person that is watching you has like 5 megabytes download speed, right? And I'm casting at 3500 bit rate. That means just to watch me, they have to dedicate 60+% of their internet, their total internet, that means across the entire building that they live in from their provider, just to watch my cast. Alright? That can cause, and that means if they don't have that, then they get buffering and then desynchronization from the channel and then all other kinds of visual issues. So through Orum's standard, the person that I got all this information to, which I'm going to link up his channel in a few moments, and I'm also going to link his Twitter, and you guys can go give him some love for all this information, because again, I don't take credit for finding this, I'm just relaying it. Through Orum's numbers, he says that the best possible option is to shoot for a maximum bitrate for non-partnered casters of 2000. This is the number that he suggests through understanding that ISPs, most ISPs use that 2 Mbps as their standard. They when they see information that's going bigger from that, they like to choke it down. They like to condense it. They like to say, you're doing a little too much on your connection. We want to kind of throttle it a little bit. All right? And if they throttle your connection while you're doing something more than 2000, that can also lead to other people having buffering issues. I still have people in my channel have buffering issues. And I am very sorry that I have that issue. But I can't justify the bitrate of 2000. It's just too low. At 2000, I would have to basically say no in entirety to high frame rates. Because once you hit 480p or go below that, then you start seeing the big pixel issue, and then even though you're not getting any motion pixelation, people see the pixels, and it causes issues with that, and it degrades the quality of the cast. Another question, let's say someone streams using consoles, will any of these settings change? What do you mean by streams using consoles? Do you mean stream like using a capture card from a 360? Or do you mean like stream from the console itself, like a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One using their built-in systems? What if the game is 30 FPS? Should you stream at 30 FPS or can you increase it? You can actually, believe it or not, even if a game is locked at 30 FPS, just because the game is playing at 30 FPS doesn't mean that the frame rate... here's an example. Right now I'm casting at 30 FPS, and if you remember the motion of my camera during the tests, the camera was really, really smooth, right? But my frame rate on my camera is still 30. This is not a 60 FPS camera. And you can see, like, right now, the camera is in 30, right? It looks like 30 FPS. It doesn't look as crisp and as smooth as it did in the other casts where I was casting at 60. That's very much a thing. Hashtag shadow in a box covered by another box. Shadow, you're literally adorable. Alright, streaming from a capture card. You can increase it. It will make it look smoother for other people. Not as smooth as if it was actually 60, but it does actually make a difference because people are seeing the display of 60 FPS. Will any of these settings change? No. The numbers still work the same way regardless of how you're casting. It's still pixel width, pixel height, frame rate divided by 10,000 bitrate. All of those numbers are still identical, even if you're casting from a console. In regards to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, though, I don't actually think that you get a choice to set those things. I think it's kind of just like, okay, I want to start streaming. And then it dynamically looks at, like, your internet connection, and then it does quality from there. Goddamn internets. I'm sure you put that box in it, just has making funnies or anything. Hey Moose, how you doing over there? By the way, that market wasn't... bookmarked on the wrong channel. Jeez. But yeah, I don't, in my opinion, you're right, but you can change the bitrate manually, but they kind of discourage you to do so. Well, even if you change the bitrate, I don't know if they allow you to really know the resolution frame rate, though. So even if you change the bitrate, I don't know if that would really allow you to have the close-in kind of knowledge on the numbers. The control, that's what I'm trying to say. The control of the numbers. Because it might just cast at whatever it wants to cast at. You might be able to find out that information, but I am unaware of it personally. But yeah, even if if the game is in 30 FPS and it's capturing in 30 FPS, you can set the frame rate of the cast to 60 FPS, and it will make it look smoother. Just because everyone else will be seeing 60 FPS. Like an example of that is my Dark Cloud 2 casts. The game... Oh, no, wait. Dark Cloud 2 actually plays at 60. Never mind. That was completely and totally, like... that was a horrible example. Doesn't work. I lied. But believe me, it does actually display a little better. Hey, game. How you doing? How long have you been here? Have you missed my entire discussion? Because we did a lot of smart people stuff. I did a lot. A lot of smart people talking. But how are you doing, game? Welcome. How you doing over there? Fucking Shadow. You're alone over there, you know, Shadow. Everyone's over here. Get with the times. Z, were you able to catch everything, or was the cast buffering a lot? Oh, I've been going for 8 hours. Jesus. Mod only box. I couldn't resist that. Yep, I caught it. I also took a crap in Shadow's mod box. Don't tell him. Oh, it's gone. It's purged. My chat is blank. Shadow no longer exists over there. Confusion for me. I could stream at 720p 60 on my stream. Not really, but yeah. And get pixelation. But my VODs are clear as... Let's looky. Whap. This is against terms of service. Game Guru 21. That's not clear at all. I see it plain as day, game. In motion, it is not crystal clear. Okay, game. To figure out where the pixelation is specifically, what you want to do is focus on elements of the stream that are stagnant. Alright? To really kind of look for where the pixelation is. So, an example would be, look at the health bar and the, like maybe the crosshairs and the back end of the 10mm submachine gun when you have it in your hand and you're walking with it at the 138.2 or 138.25 mark on your Wakfu Chillcast towards the end of that. If you watch those things, like if you keep your eyes focused on those specific points, the stagnant, still moving points of the screen, it really kind of accents where the pixelation is, because those corners, those edges, start to degrade. Like they get less sharp in image and look a little kind of like fluttery. To me, it's plain as day. I see it. I definitely see it in motion. Now, that goes to say, game, to remind you from earlier, don't pass it around. I don't want motion sickness. I couldn't resist it. Shadow. Couldn't resist, sorry. But, Spike, thanks for all the info I got around. Thanks again, man. You're welcome. Sorry I didn't address you immediately, cause I'm a butthole. Take care, Marksman. Thank you for coming out to watch. Hope to see you again soon, friend. 'Tis much appreciated to have you here. Welcome back. Long time no see and all those fancy things. Love you, friend. Bye. Good night. But yeah, game. I don't mean to say that your cast looks bad. That's not the type of message that I'm conveying. I'm just letting you know that the pixelation is in fact there in motion. And it becomes very noticeable in high points of motion. It's actually very noticeable in motion in general, but it's very much there. It's not something being made up. No, I see it. Also, to clarify, there are certain games where you just can't avoid pixelation. It's actually just impossible to do so. those games are games with extraordinarily high pixel density in and of themselves. So games like Witcher 2, Stalker, Clear Sky, Stalker, Shadow of Chernobyl, Misery Mod, in those games where there's a lot of ground clutter, like god rays, lots of trees, and big like foliage amounts and stuff like that. In order to fix the amount of essentially what that is there's more pixels than it knows how to handle, right? The bitrate and the numbers that are all optimized to do something like that, okay? It's optimized to work, but it's not optimized to handle everything you throw at it. So, for example, if you're, I don't know, sprinting through the forest area in The Witcher 2 with maximum settings and you have all the foliage turned up, you're going to see pixelation. And the reason why you're going to see that pixelation is because there's so much information in that image that the buffer that you have for it just can't handle it. And this is a problem with Twitch. This is not a problem with the numbers or the encoder or your system specs. This is just a matter of Twitch. Twitch will only allow 3500. It's in the terms of service. Doing so will get you in trouble. It probably won't get you banned, but it's definitely something that Twitch discourages completely. They say just 3500. And that 3500 number means that casters are limited to certain points. Like, for example, doing this option of 540p 60 3500, that's a good option, because that pixel density is higher than 0.1 bits per pixel. So it might fix some of that pixelation that occurs in high motion, high pixel areas. But it also might not. So another option you could obviously do 720p 30 at 3500 and have a really, really rich image, because that's like 700 above the recommended number. But there's just only so much you can do when it comes to something that has a lot of pixel density just built into it already. Oh. Okay. That was funny to watch. Yeah, we had a bunch of tech talk. Yeah! Excuse me, game. I said hello, god darn it. Take a look at me. The mod only box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these videos that I just did, I'm going to condense them, I'm going to render them, we're going to put them in a neat little package, and then I'll end up putting them on the internet. We have all of these? We do. Are all of these the right ones? 12. So all of those, basically? Yeah, right? If we look at you. I don't need this anymore. Oh, hi. Programs, just to have them out of the way. First off, be right back. Changing some numbers. We're going to do our first test right now. Numbers are blind. I'll tell you after we have all the tests set and done. Be right back. Alright, so these right here, all of this, all this fancy stuff right there. I'm going to take all that, I'm going to compress it down into one video. I'm going to upload that to YouTube. You guys are going to have it as a resource. If you ever want to look at it, ever want to get more information in regards to all of that stuff. I might actually upload these in multiple different videos, just kind of do the overall one and then like the other little parts to kind of explain all the other stuff if you want to look at all of those, rather than just, you know, get all the information in one video, which would be this one. For now, though, my throat is on fucking fire. Who wants to raid someone? There's like no one here right now, though. Meh, let's not raid. No raid. No ratings be happen. Mortal Kombat. Oh, Fubar turned off. Fuck you too, Fubar. Alright, well. Apparently it didn't pop. What didn't? What? 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 Yeah, my throat's on fire. I need to get another drink. I've had like 6 of these. Thank you guys for coming out. I hope that any information that you found here was of use. If you happen to miss any of it and just showed up, I will be uploading the important parts onto YouTube. You can find them there. No, all that neat little stuff, all that information there. It actually might be more apparent on YouTube, figuring out like the pixel densities and stuff, because YouTube's codec is dicks. Anywho, thank you guys for coming out to watch. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I love you all. You're amazing. And I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. EDT for some motherfucking Skyrim. Oh, yeah. You're all amazing. You're fantastic. You're phenomenal. You're great people. Also, while I have the chance. No, I can't do that. Never mind. I love you guys. See you guys tomorrow. Good night. Fubar's off.